Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF, Samach Chesed Bava Metzia. We're holding 4 lines off the top of the Amud and back to the sugya of mashkin. So a fellow lends $1,000,000 to Shimon. Shimon responds by offering his field as a mashkin, as a collateral, which will now be placed in Reuven's possession for the time being. So we discussed various types of mashkins which are acceptable, which are run the risk of ribbis. Says the Gemara, Amar Avashi, Amrli Sabi, the elders of the town of the Masa, the town of Machasya. So the elders of Machasya told me as follows: Stam mashkanta shata, the typical mashkin, unless otherwise specified, is at least a year. What does that mean? Lamay nafkamina, what does that mean? Pertaining to what halacha? Says the Gemara like this: in reality, a mashkin, really depends on the term of the loan, right? He holds onto the field until due date, right? Until all the money is repaid. So what do we mean a year? The answer is like this: the achel la shata. If the lender had used the field for a year, matzi masalakle. So we're speaking where it's an astra de masalki. We learned yesterday. There's some places the deal allowed the loiva to come back and redeem the field at will, right? But even that is limited. He has to wait. He has to give the malva an opportunity to enjoy the benefits of the field, so to speak, for at least a year. He's in there, let him have it for at least a year. The achla shata, if the lender used it for a year, he reaped the crops for a shata, motzi masalakle. Now the loiva has the right to buy it back. V'loi, but if it's still within the first year, you got to give him a chance. Like motzi masalakle, you can't just come back right away and take it back. V'amar Ravashi, says Ravashi another halacha. Amrli sabi, the mata machasya. So these same elders told me as follows: why is it called mashkanta? What kind of name is that? My mashkanta. Answer: the shchuna gabe, because it resides with him. He's the resident. He's the resident of that field. He's like a neighbor. Shachan, like a neighbor. What's the point of highlighting his, neighbor privileges? Well, it actually comes with privileges. L'dina de Bava Metzia. Listen to this: when a fellow sells a property, who gets first buyer's right? The next door neighbor. He has a right to make that first offer. Okay, it's called Bava Metzia, the fellow at the boundary, and it's based on the pasuk, which tells us to be righteous and generous. Look, it's much easier for a person to deal with to maintain 2 fields next to each other. So if you're already selling, sell it to the neighbor on the other side who can, have much benefit from it. So when a malva, took on a mashkin, he's like a neighbor. He's no worse than a neighbor. He's already on the field, and if you're going to sell it, the loiva, that is, the owner is about to sell it off, rightfully you should be offering it to the malva who's already there. You should be giving him the first option of buying the field. That's why it's called mashkanta. He's like a neighbor. He's residing on the field. Amarava leis hilchasa. The halacha does not follow the following practices, meaning we don't adopt these halachas as halacha l'mai. So we don't agree with it. We don't allow it. What are the 3 things? Loi ketar shei papanoi. Rav Papa, papanoi is a reference to Rav Papa. He was a beer producer. We had this on DAF Samachay. He would sell ahead of time. So Tishrei time, which was still sort of pre-season, he would sell this beer and only take payment Nisan time, and he would charge them based on the higher Nisan rate. So although he was selling it now during Tishrei, which was still early in the season, where typically people would sell at a discount, no, he would sell it to them, but since they weren't actually paying for it, they would have to pay him Nisan time based on the Nisan rate. And Rav Papa did it without concern. He did not consider it ribbis, as we're going to explain soon. And Rava says we don't paskin like that. We consider it an issue of ribbis because technically they're paying more than they should because of the fact that they're delaying their payment until Nisan. So it's like he's charging a fee for the fact that they're holding on to their money, to his money, so to speak. So that's an issue of ribbis. So we don't work with that allowance. Nor does the halacha agree with the documents that they would do in the town of Mechayza. We'll see in a minute what that means. And thirdly, nor do we allow the chachirus arrangement, this leasing arrangement, which was prevalent in the town of Norash. Okay, so these three things are not allowed. Let's go back. Number one is ketarshi papanoi. What is that? Ketarshi de Rapapa. Rapapa's tarsha arrangement. Tarsha, by the way, means quiet, a quiet ribbis, sort of an unseen ribbis. And again, the point is, he was a beer seller. He would sell them beer early in the season, Tishri time, when beer was available for cheap, but they would be required to pay the higher rate of Nisan because they were delaying their payment until Nisan. Now, Rapapa did not consider it ribbis because he said, look, I don't really need the money. I'm wealthy. I don't need the money now. I'm not desperate for the money. Nor am I desperate to sell my beer. I'm fine holding on to it until Nisan. I don't need their favors. I'm not looking to sell it. They decided to buy it now, but I'm charging regular market rate, Nisan rate. So on his side of the coin, so to speak, there was no gain. He did not consider it a profit. Therefore, there's no ribbis issue. But on their side of the coin, the fact is, if only they would really have money available, they would go to the next dealer and buy it now based on today's rate. The reason why they were willing to pay the higher Nissan rate was because they were desperate. They didn't have the money on hand, and he was the only one willing to extend them credit. So in effect, they're giving him a fee for delayed payments on their end. It's ribbis. And that's the issue. The second item is shtori mechuznoi. What do they do in Mechayza? So let's say they provided goods on consignment. Look, we'll sell it, and we'll split the profits. They would actually add the zakfilo. They would add the ravcha, the profits, onto the actual principal instead of formulating a document indicating that they handed $100 million of goods on consignment. They would actually sort of estimate, okay, how much are these goods going to generate? How much profit will be coming in the next 5 years? And it was sort of just an estimate. I mean, educated guess, but it wasn't an absolute number. I mean, anything can happen, right? They can gain, they can lose. And they sort of considered it money in the pocket. Here, we're giving you this material on consignment, but instead of indicating that it's only worth $1 million, they would add $100,000 profit, theoretical profit, per year, and add it to the actual principal, stating as though they gave them $1.5 million, which is unfair. Because and they would actually include it in the shtar, which is unfair because who says we're going to have profit? Who says the salesman is going to profit on the deal? Who says there's going to be any income? And in effect, the lender is making an outright profit here, which in effect is ribbis, right? Because he's getting it on account of the money or the items that he lent that person. So if it wouldn't be defined, if it wouldn't be indicated in the shtar, so then it's sort of up in the air. Okay, we gain, it's both our gain. We lose, it's both our lose, but our loss. But here, he's getting a guaranteed income. That's unfair. Amalei Mar, that was his name. He was a son, Bar of Amemar, and he turned to Ravashi. Amalei Mar Bar Amemar Ravashi. What's the issue? Abba, my own father, Amemar Ovid Hachi, he does the same thing. And how does he circumvent any ribbis issues? Very simple. When his agents returned to him, reporting to him exactly how much they gained or lost, he trusts them. So true, initially he writes it into the shtar so that he sort of has that leverage, but at the end of the day he trusts them. And he'll deduct anything that was not made, so there's no ribbis. Rav Ashi says, okay, that's good when he's around, when he's alive. But let's say, let's say he passes away. Okay, he's a righteous man, he's a scrupulous man, he's a chassid, he trusts, he believes, he'll never take something which doesn't belong to him. But let's say he passes on and his kids now inherit this document. And they'll collect it in full. What do we do then? So he sort of, Rav Ashi indicated, sort of in passing, unwittingly, that a Meimar may pass away. And that did it. Right? So he said, if it falls to the Yisaimim, i.e. you, Mar, Mayavi, what are we going to do then? Mai. Havik ishgaga sheyoytze milfnei hashalit. There's a pasuk in Koheles, like a ruler issues some sort of, ruling, some sort of law that wasn't exactly substantiated and worked through, and the authorities go run and implement it, right? Here as well, a tzaddik who is called a shalit, he rules over the world. His words carry weight, they have value, they have impact. And guess what happened? In fact, Ameimar, who he was alluding to, passed away. Okay, so bottom line, the first item on the list we shouldn't be following. The second item on the list should not be done. There were issues of ribis. And finally, we have chachire narshoy. In Narash, they would do the following chachirus, leasing arrangement. The kasvi hachi. They would write like this in the document. Mishkan le planya ari le planya. So basically, Reuben lent Shimon $1 million. Shimon turned around and was mamashkin, right? He took his field and gave it to Reuben as a mashkin. Mashkin le planya. So planya here is Shimon. Handed over his field as a mashkin, are le planya to Reuben, the lender. And then Reuben turns around and says, look, I'm not a farmer. You're the expert. This is your field. We can do a chachirus arrangement. Chachirus entails the owner, in this case it's Reuben, because he's hiring Shimon, so to speak, to a fixed rate per year. Give me 100 pounds, 100 bushels of wheat per year. So typically that's okay, because if I own a field, I can hire somebody and make all kinds of stipulations. Look, you want to work for me? This is the under these conditions. You provide me with X amount per year, whether the field produces or doesn't produce, right? And you're running a risk of gain or loss, right? That's fine. Problem here is that Reuben doesn't really own the field. He took it as a mashkin. So technically it's really Shimon's field, and Shimon is now being hired, so to speak, by Reuben under this chachirus. He's being a chaycher, right? He's leasing the field and promising to provide Reuben with X amount, fixed amount per year, whether or not the field produces it or does not produce. So that's very close to a ribis arrangement, because Reuben is now all gain due to the money that he lent Shimon. Okay, and Shimon turned around and leased the field from Reuben. That's a problem. Why? Emas kana. Because when did Reuben really acquire the field? It's not really his. The knai in LA that would allow him, that would enable him to hire Shimon to work on it. I mean, he's not really the owner. It's all just a sort of says the Gemara, but nowadays we find that people do make this arrangement, and they write like this. So Norash, apparently there they improved on the wording of the shtar, and they write like this. Kanina Menei, then in fact Reuven, I purchased the field from Shimon, I got it from him as a mashkin, let's say, right? But I stayed there, I lived there for 3 years, which establishes my ownership. Now it looks like I'm an owner. V'shahina kamei donim, and I was here many years of hadachach, and then Shimon turned around and leased it from me. And we do this, even though again it's not such a smooth arrangement, kadesh lo yitinol deles, in order to avoid slamming the door of Leivin in front of borrowers, meaning we're trying to make it easier to borrow money. We want to facilitate loans and give the lenders that security that in fact they'll still see their money back, and therefore we do this a shopper dummy. So therefore this arrangement really works, as we explained, because Reuben now actually sat in the field for a couple of years. He established his ownership, and no longer looks like it's just a quick merry-go-round arrangement. So again, Shimon has his field, hands it to Reuben as a mashkin. Reuben sits on it, dwells on it, works on it for a couple of years. He's sort of the established owner, and now he can turn around and offer it to Shimon within this chachirus arrangement, which promises Reuben a fixed amount per year. So that's what we do, but the Gemara doesn't agree with it, because of Alav Milsahi, it's incorrect, it's not proper, because even in this case, Rashi calls it ribis gemurhi. It's absolute ribis because, unlike a case where the lender is sort of running a risk, maybe he'll gain, maybe he'll lose. In this case, he's not running any risk whatsoever. Shimon is committed, promising him X amount per year, right? And why is he doing this? Because he lent him money. That's ribis. Okay, so bottom line is Rava gave us a list of 3 business arrangements where there is an element of ribis, and therefore they should be avoided. Says the Mishnah, Ein moishiven chenvani lemechzis sachar. So here the Mishnah will present to us something called an iska. It's like on consignment. So I basically hire a manager, and we arrange as follows. Look, I'm giving you this material, this merchandise, or funding that you can take to find merchandise and to sell, and we will split the profits 50-50. Okay? Now, you can't just loan him that money or that merchandise, because why are you, we have Reuven giving the money or the merchandise to Shimon, who'll put in the effort, who'll go and sell it and make the profit, or the loss, right? So what right does Reuven have to collect that profit? I mean, if he's just lending him something, it's ribis. So it cannot be a full, loan arrangement. That can't work. Nor would people be willing to just entrust, Shimon with this money like a pekadon, which, carries very little responsibility on his part, unless he's actually pesheaf, he's outright careless. Otherwise, he's not responsible for the well-being of this funding or merchandise. Nobody would, in his right mind, be willing to do that. Rather, the Chachamim instituted a very interesting arrangement called an iska, which is half and half. Here, take $1 million, use it to invest in XYZ. Hopefully, you'll make some profits. Half of that amount, half of that money, has a status of a loan, which basically means that it's all under your responsibility, right? You, the fellow taking this money, is fully responsible, like any loan, right? Or if he gives them merchandise, same thing. They make a shuma, they assess its actual current market value, and Shimon commits himself to that amount. So I'm responsible for this amount, as though I'm borrowing it. And now, any money made on this half belongs to Shimon, rightfully so. But the other part, the other half, is called a pikadon, which technically still belongs to Reuven. He's just sort of entrusting it into Shimon's care. Any money made off that part rightfully goes to Reuven. So this allows for the 50-50 arrangement. Basically, 50% of the profit that Shimon keeps is on account of his half, the loan part, and the other 50% profit which he gives to Reuven is on account of the pikadon part, the deposit part, which rightfully goes back to Reuven, right? Because it's money made off his money. But there's still one sticking point. Why is Shimon toiling? Why is Shimon putting in all this effort to look after Reuven's half? Just out of the goodness of his heart? No, because Reuven lent him the first half. So basically, this is a form of ribis. He's repaying for his favor. So the only way to get around that is have Reuven actually have a separate salary arrangement with Shimon. Look, I'm going to pay you, for your efforts. And that will be payment for your looking after my half. So again, very simple. Reuven gives $1 million to Shimon in a iska arrangement with an agreement to share the profits. Okay, so any profits or losses, we split it evenly. And technically it's because half this money constitutes a loan, which garners either profit or losses to Shimon. It's his loan, it's his money, so to speak, that he's taking responsibility for. It's his issue. Versus the other half, which is technically still Reuven's money, it's just a pikadon, which entitles Reuven to 50% to the profit or losses coming from that portion of the investment. Okay, so knowing this, let's continue the Mishnah. Ein moyshivin chenvani l'machzes sachar. One may not hire, so to speak, a chenvani, a grocer, to sell his merchandise. Right? So Reuben has merchandise, he hires Shimon to sell it l'machzes sachar with a 50-50 arrangement. Nor can he give him funding to have Shimon purchase payros and split the profits. Elim kain, unless it is allowed. If he gives him, he pays him as a worker. So he's providing him with enumeration for his efforts. Likewise, right? Here's a group of chickens, of hens. Take care of them, raise them, and we'll split the eggs and the profits. You can't do that because once again, Shimon has committed himself to be responsible, right? At least halfway, right? Half of the milva part, right? Remember, half is like a loan, half is like a pikatin. So we have the established market value here, and Shimon is sort of signing on the dotted line. I'm committing to this value to return to you this amount. So the milva part is fully committal, fully binding. So again, why is he giving Shimon half the profits on account of the other half, the part which is a pekadon? Evidently, it's because he's returning his favor, because he loaned him the first half. So again, it's the same issue. The same thing with committing to raise calves or young donkeys, right? And have them share, with this profit sharing arrangement. Unless he provides him with monies for his effort and for his feeding expenses. But mekablin, that's legal. Mekablin means they're not assessing the value. He's not committing to anything. He's just a hired worker. Look, here are my agolin, my siachim. You take care of them until they, develop them, and we'll split the profits. So you're not liable for any losses. You're not responsible. There's no milva aspect at all. I'm just hiring you as a manager. We're going to share the profits if there are any. That's fine. And until what point do you have to raise them? Whatever's the accepted practice, locally. Until the calves grow to a third of their maturity, point. And regarding the donkeys, until they're fit for carrying loads. So again, we're speaking about the iska arrangement, which is basically a profit sharing, enterprise. Half of which is called a milva, half is a pikadoin. It's only legal if I pay you for your efforts. Tano kepayel batal, he pays him like an idle worker. My kepayel batal, why idle worker? He's working very hard. Amar Abaye, it's all relative. Kepayel batal, you're paying him. How much would a person be willing to give up his strenuous job to sit, at the cashier and at the cash register and sell eggs? So sure, it's work, but it's relatively easy work. Kepayel batal, which would alleviate him from that strenuous work that he's accustomed to. So it is a fair salary based on his effort. Why does the Mishnah have to discuss appointing a grocer to sell his merchandise, or providing him with funding to buy merchandise to sell at retail? Aren't they both, just two variations of the same idea? The Mishnah only mentions the first case, where Reuven just hired him as a grocer to sell Reuven's material. I would say, there, it's sufficient to give him this relatively minor salary to justify for his efforts, because there's not much effort involved. The merchandise had been provided for him already. But in case 2, where Reuven is just giving him funding, and he has to go out and source the material, the nafesh tirche, lots of effort involved. Maybe it's not enough to give him this relatively meager salary, and that's why the Mishnah brings that out as well. On the other hand, on the flip side, Likach behen Paris, had the Mishnah only mentioned the second case, Havamina, I would think, Hosamu the Baik of bottle over there. A salary is required, Mishum the Nafesh Tirche, because of that excessive effort. Aval Chanvani, the Nafesh Tirche, as opposed to the first case where the effort is minor, Ema Sagale, maybe would be enough to share lunch with him. But just something minor, something symbolic. Even if Shimon just dipped his bread into Ruvain's, salt water, or he shared with him, a dried fig, that constitutes salary. That's enough. No. The point is, you got to give him a proper salary. How much is a salary? So in the Mishnah we have the Shita that you need to give him Kipayel Batal, as we explained. But we have two other Shitas. Tanu Rabbana, Kam hu schare. What is considered a proper enumeration? Bein meruba, ubein muad, whether it's a lot or a little, whatever they decide, that's enough. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Daimer, you don't even have to make up before. Even if he shared his food with him, that's considered his salary, and that's sufficient to offset any ribbis concerns. No, we got to go like the Mishnah. You have to give him a properly structured salary. So again, you can't establish this financial arrangement, this profit sharing arrangement, especially when we're speaking about animals which are all about consumption without any production. It doesn't produce much and it just keeps on eating. So you can't do this profit sharing arrangement, and the Brisa cites two examples, izim and rechelim, goats and sheep. So unless you provide for that salary, otherwise don't do it. Rabbi Yehuda, no. Your examples actually work. Shamanasa izim. You know why? You could make this shuma arrangement by goats because the manager, he gets the milk. That's ample salary. Likewise, when it comes to sheep, he gets the wool clippings. He gets the fibers that come off, washed away. And those that get picked off by the thorns. So basically, he's gaining from the deal. And that constitutes salary for his efforts. And it offsets any ribbis concerns. Likewise, when it comes to hens, chickens, he gets the eggs. He keeps the beitzim. Sure, she's consuming, but she's producing as well. So what about the Tanakama? He disagrees with that. Tanakama, the goat milk and the wool sharings, that's not sufficient, that salary. Why not? Right? Why isn't it enough as payment for his efforts and his animal feeding expenses? Answer is yeah, of course, but nobody would have any argument if in fact he keeps the milk and the giza. Oh, we're speaking that he's not keeping the actual milk, just the whey, the milk residue that run off of it, when they do the cheese. So that's what he's allowing his manager to keep vitutri, or the fibers that shed, through the thorns, whatever. So basically, he's not giving him a proper salary, a proper income, and therefore, Tanakama, who does not deem this sufficient, is because he's following the shita of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which is mentioned earlier. The Amar Nois Neschar Mishalom. Only a proper salary works, but not this. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda, he was like his father, Rabbi Yehuda, who said even just a lunch sharing thing would be enough. The Amar Afilu Toval Imayel Betzir, Imayel Gergeris Achas. That's enough. So and certainly when he gets the whey or the fibers on a constant basis. We have a similar case. Maskeres isha lechaverta. So Rachel happens to own a tarnagolis. Leah has a constant supply of eggs, and she needs Rachel's tarnagolis services. Basically, she needs the tarnagolis to sit on her eggs, incubate them, and produce chicks. So Rachel can rent her tarnagolis. Maskeres isha lechaverta tarnagolis b'shnei afreichen. She says, look, listen to this arrangement. You provide the eggs. I'm not taking responsibility at all. It's your eggs. I'm just going to provide my tarnagolis services. I'm going to, have her look after your eggs, incubate them. And what's my payment? 2 chicks a year. So you're renting my tarnagolis. That's fine. But Isha she'amel chaverta. But in this case, Rachel turns to Leah, tarnagolis shali ubeitzim shelichi. Right? This is my tarnagolis. These are your eggs. But we'll make a partnership. I'm half responsible. That's like an iska. So half of it is like a loan. Oh, now you're running into ribbis. You got to avoid that. Vani va'at. and me and you, nachlik be'efrechem, will split the chicks. So basically, it's a splitting arrangement. It's a profit sharing arrangement along the lines of a iska. So half of it is her responsibility. She has to look after gains or losses on half. That's like a milva. So why is she toiling on the other half, which belongs to her friend? Oh, it's as payment, as a fee for that first half, which is a loan. Rabbi Yehuda Matar, he still allows it. Rabbi Shimon Eiser, he does not. How could Rabbi Yehuda allow this? Rabbi Yehuda, he doesn't require payment for work and expenses. He can make some muzaris. She is keeping those unsuccessful eggs, which don't develop into chicks. So that's deemed her salary and payment to offset any ribbis. Tana Rabbanan. What about, young calves and donkeys need to be transported sometimes by hand? There's extra expense there. So if you're in a place where the accepted practice was for the owner to actually pay his manager schar katov lemois, to pay mois for carrying, for transportation expenses, lebehema, for the animal, malin, he's required to do so on top of the regular salary. Otherwise, you're running into ribbis. Ve'in meshanin minhag hamadina, don't deviate from the local practice. Well, it depends. If he's providing with an adult, cow, adult donkey, and together with that he has the offspring just follow the mother. You don't need to physically transport them. Shaman egali imoy, a calf with the mother, v'siachim imoy, and the young donkey with his mother. V'afilu b'makim shenag u'lahalis schar katav l'mois. Even if you're in a place where typically they pay for transportation, there's no issue here. Asks the Gemara, okay, typically the offspring follows the mother, but sometimes he's stubborn. You need to put in that extra effort to move him around. We don't have to pay him for his efforts. Well, the answer is the animal waste is kept by the manager, so that offsets any possible extra work. Tanakama disagrees. That's insignificant. Typically an owner just gives that up. It's not deemed something of value which constitutes payment. When it comes to this iska arrangement, how much do you have to provide as a salary? We follow Rabbi Yehuda, who says even if he shares his food, that's enough. Well, look, Rabbi Yehuda, who says that when the fellow keeps the the milk residue, etc., that's also enough. Look, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, who says that the young offspring are deemed to be following their mothers, and whatever any extra effort is offset by the glalim that the fellow will keep. All the best to you, and atzlacha rabbah.